Welcome to Beyond the Razor Wire Fence. I'm Kelly Sheard, the director of the Gender Wealth Institute within Women's Way. Our mission is to advance gender and racial equity by building collective power to disrupt systems of oppression and strengthen alternative models centered in inclusion, love, and liberation. Over the last 7 months, Women's Way facilitated a narrative change fellowship with 7 women and gender-expansive individuals with experiences of incarceration and reentry. With help from Love Now Media, our fellows honed their storytelling skill set to advocate for economic equity in Philadelphia. This podcast centers their stories. Beyond the Razor Wire Fence asserts that incarceration is a form of wealth extraction. Moreover, through this podcast, fellows depict the disproportionately deep impact for women, trans, and gender-expansive people. The fellows' stories dive deep into how the carceral system perpetuates the gender wealth gap and calls attention to the institutionalized strategies of extraction before, during, and after incarceration. Through a combination of interviews, storytelling, and research, the fellows challenge assumptions around incarceration and advocate for a shift in policy and culture to move us closer to a liberatory economy.
This episode features Jamila Harris. We'll listen to Jamila, hear her in conversation with our friends from Love Now Media, and finally we'll welcome a guest, Latanya Myers from the Philadelphia Community Bail Fund, who will sit down with me to add some context to the terminology and information presented by Jamila. Welcome, Jay.
This is Kelly from Women's Way with an important framework, exploring the gender wealth gap. First, we want to begin by centering our definition of wealth, pioneered by our friends at the Maven Collaborative. When wealth is accumulated, we live and retire with greater dignity, freedom, and peace of mind. Our communities are prosperous, resilient, and vibrant. Future generations have the freedom to dream big and become all they truly can be. And we are healthy and know that our families, networks, and communities are healthy, spiritually whole, and contributing. It's important to start here because we want to move the conversation beyond individual economic stability and the possession of financial assets. Both of these concepts are important, but often not enough to encompass the lived experience of abundance that we seek to build. When we talk about the gender wealth gap, we want to highlight the ways in which race and gender impact wealth accumulation and wealth extraction in our economy. Institutions like the carceral system are important to consider when we talk about the gender wealth gap, as policies around labor, health, safety, and dignity often serve to extract wealth from women who are incarcerated.
Peace and love. My name is Jamila W. Harris. I'm known as Jay, and I am a spoken word artist, a social justice activist, and the editor of Prison Health News, the only prison health magazine distributed throughout the United States prisons and jails. And I am a published author who has a new book released this fall. But most importantly, I am a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 6 delightful grandchildren. I am honored to be a member of this podcast with my phenomenal peers. However, I wish that it was under different circumstances because I feel like I have been in a long nightmare that I'm still hoping to wake up from. 16 years ago, I was in a relationship that introduced me to substance abuse, mental health challenges, and trauma. That relationship ended, and I became the head of my household and the sole provider for not only my 4 children, but also my pets. And everything in my home depended on me. I needed to take time from work to deal with my health. And after I exhausted all of my family and medical leave time, and I still could not return, I was amicably terminated. In a few short months, I had also exhausted every penny in my savings. Things were quickly beginning to fall apart, and my back was against the wall. I was facing homelessness and my panic because I was not only responsible for the roof over my own head, but also the roof over my children's head. So out of desperation and fear, I started cashing fake checks. I did this periodically for a few months until another valid source of substantial income came through. However, I was arrested, and that's how I got introduced to the criminal justice system. My story correlates to the gender wealth gap because before I cannot think about building wealth when I am still paying for my freedom. Before I returned from incarceration, there were already 5-day warnings piling in the mail for me. A 5-day warning is a notice to remit a payment in 5 days or else further legal actions would be taken against me. Those actions included suspending my driver's license, garnishing my wages, and placing me back in front of my judge, which could result in re-incarceration. As a single mother returning home, I could not afford any of these legal actions because first, it was difficult finding gainful employment with a criminal record. And even with a master's in criminal justice, it is still difficult to build a lucrative career where I could thrive and not just survive. Additionally, I have health challenges and therefore can only work part-time. This exacerbates the strain of paying back my debt and also building wealth. Second, transitioning home and back into my role as a parent was challenging. I had to repair the harm that my decision caused for my children, and it took some time to restabilize my family foundation. But most importantly, the same challenges, financial struggles that I had before I was incarcerated, I still have. So if my back was up against the wall before my incarceration, then it's really against the wall now. I currently still receive those 5-day warnings, and until I satisfy my debt, the threat of destroying everything that I've worked so hard to rebuild remains over my head. There should be legislation that decriminalizes sanctions against individuals who demonstrate an inability to pay off their debt. There should also be sentencing alternatives, diversionary programs, instead of incarceration for single mothers, especially those who are on their first offense. 1 out of every 9 African American child experience an incarcerated parent. And having an incarcerated parent is one of the most critical risk factors to an adolescent committing a crime. Children of incarcerated mothers are more likely to become criminally involved and experience more rearrests than children of incarcerated fathers. Therefore, when you incarcerate a single mother, you are not only harming her children, but also the community. I want to take this time to apologize if my actions have harmed anyone, and I want to thank Love Media, Women's Way, and the Gender Wealth Institute for allowing me this platform to engage. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Blackson with Love Now Media, and today I'll be speaking with fellow Jamila Harris. Thank you so much for already what you shared.
Thank you.
So as you shared, of course, I'm thinking, and as I think about the gender wealth gap, how it started to impact you before, right, the arrest, and then after. You mentioned a 5-day notice. Tell me a little bit more about that as it specifically relates to you. run some numbers down, because I'm trying to calculate in my head.
Absolutely. This is one county. I cash checks in several counties, so I have more than one county that is I owe restitution to. So since 2008, this county sends me 5-day warnings. And when I went to serve my sentence in another jail, there were already 5-day warnings being sent out from this other county. So when I came home from jail, there were like a stack of 5-day warnings that said, you must pay back a certain amount towards your restitution, or else these legal actions will take place against you. So I've been dealing with this for 16 years. So it's like the way your light bill comes in and says, pay this or else you won't have no light. I get a letter that says 5-day warning right across the top, wherever I move. Pay this or else you could go through this. We could just destroy your life, or at the worst, put you back in jail again. So it's been 16 years of this type of notice.
And when you open up that mail, how do they calculate the numbers that they tell you what you owe?
That's a good question, because in another county, I was sentenced to 10 more years of probation after I served my incarceration period, after I served parole, and after I served probation. They did place me back in front of the sentencing judge, so I know that this can actually occur. And the judge gave me 10 more years of probation or jail. There was no other alternative for not failing to pay off my restitution. I cashed a check for $5,000. The justice system charged me double the amount from the very start, bringing my debt to $11,000. And then community supervision added another $10,000 to that $11,000. So now my total becomes $20,000. Mind you, I cashed a check for $5,000. That's my restitution. But there were $15,000 of additional charges.
And you served time.
Added, exactly. Yet, after completing that time, probation and parole, I was still resentenced to 10 more years, as the judge said, to allow me time to pay off that now $20,000 debt.
Thank you for breaking that down. I just wanted to know the numbers.
Absolutely.
And I think about this in regards to anything else that people go through, whether it be credit cards or, to your point, the light bill.
Yes.
You late, you miss it. You know, but for you, you've already served time, right? The crime costs this much, yet there are penalty fees.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yes.
And you said for 16 years.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about what you've been able to accomplish within those 16 years, despite having these exorbitant fees.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to add that the penalty fees is more like just service charges. I have to express that. It used to be $2.75 to make a restitutional payment. It just went up to $27.50 to make a payment. So instead of that $27, that $30 going towards my restitution, I'm paying $30 to pay my restitution. If I'm already dealing with financial burdens and I'm struggling to maintain my household, maintain my children, who are now adults now, thank God, and successful adults, but they had to endure this for the rest of their childhood. You know, when I got incarcerated, my daughter was 4, my children were 7, 13, and 16. They're now 33, 30, 27, 20. I have grandchildren now. Their lives have moved on. They successfully moved out the home, but I still get the 5-day warning that says, and I believe the only reason why anything hasn't occurred in that county is because I am responding to it. I do care about it. I want to rectify my debt. But it's impossible when my debt is $5. Let's just give an example. And then they say, we're going to charge you 10. And then we're going to add another 10. And then we're going to add another 10. So now $5 becomes $40. Exactly. Then we're going to keep you on probation as you pay it, which is counterproductive to satisfying a debt, because every day that I am on probation, that price increases also. Probation is not free. We pay for that. So it's like I'm paying for you to babysit me. And then I'm paying to make a payment. And then I'm having imposed fines and fees, and then there's interest, the penalties, the interest.
Yeah.
It comes in the form of interest added to that. So it's almost like it's impossible. You feel like you're in this nightmare that you're like, I'm paying and I'm paying and I'm paying and I'm paying. And I'm not sitting here free for no reason. Obviously, I must be doing something.
Right.
But I feel like they are extracting wealth from me. And I feel like it's not just. I do believe that I was wrong. And I'm full of remorse. And I do believe that I owe restitution. My soul believes this. But when it's like, I'm paying.
Because numbers are numbers. It's
And
like, when does it stop if they keep going?
Absolutely. So this is when I realized, like, they're now taking from me.
Yeah.
But legally.
Right. So thinking of that design of the system where they can legally do this.
Yes.
What would I know you've mentioned some call to actions before, but what would it look like if the carceral system was really built on rehabilitation as opposed to the business of wealth extraction?
Well, first, the carceral system, rehabilitating the carceral system, to me, looks like abolishing prisons and jails. There's no, because rehabilitation, it would be the first thing is that it's trauma being incarcerated. So if you're talking about rehabilitating prisons and jails, you have to stop the trauma of a carceral system. Put people in treatment programs, put people in workforce programs, if they say this is a person that cannot be in the community, because they're just, I don't know, a mass murder, for example. Give them the psychiatric treatment. Put them in a psychiatric hospital, and not just where you just throw them in another jail with white walls and a padded room, but really find out what causes this thinking, what causes this person to behave that way. So when I reimagine the carceral system, I imagine a system that is just not prisons and jails, but actually different treatment approaches for every person that steps through that door. Like the program asks, what happened to you, not what's wrong with you.
Yes.
So that we can get down to the root of the problem. Because all the carceral system do is just sweep the problem under the rug. And
Just try to
honestly,
deal
what
with
I
that
believe,
crime. Yeah.
we're just commodity. This is my belief. Like, it's big business. So why would we want to stop it? If I could take you and make your $5,000 into $20,000.
Legally.
And they have thanked me for being cooperative. Like, they have told me, we usually don't even, it costs too much money to look for people, to send. So we got you. And since you're so willing to pay it back, we're just going to keep harassing because we know you care. You care about those 5-day notices. A lot people be like, I'm not paying that no mind. I don't,
Yeah. You mentioned something when you were telling your story that freedom comes with the cost, right? You're still paying for your freedom.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what freedom looks like to you right now.
Freedom looks like to me being autonomous and able to do whatever I want to do, go wherever I want to go, move however I want to move, legally and with respect to others, without having to ask permission from someone who's probably, I'm old enough to probably be their mother. No disrespect to the younger generation, but my oldest is 33, and I've successfully raised my children despite our challenges. So now I have to call, maybe someone 22 and say, hey, is it all right if I go to Florida for a couple of days? That's humiliating as a parent. But that's just how it goes. So freedom to me is not having to ask another person about the decisions that I want to make in my life.
Yeah. And changing the probationary system, what would be some clear changes that you would want?
And the probationary system, I have to be honest to say, all of my probation officers have been they've treated me with dignity.
I'm glad to hear that.
They've been a support team, and they've treated me with a lot of respect. I know people have different experiences, but thank God that was not a bad experience I haven't had a bad experience with probation or correctional officers or anyone in the justice system, besides the sentencing aspect of it. But the probation system to me would probably look like a 2 years max.
Yeah.
10 years probation is ridiculous. This was 33 when this happened. I'm almost 50.
Yeah. So not only the fees, but you can't go where you want to go. Does it impact employment at all?
It does, because, if you have to look for a job and you have to tell your boss, my PO needs to come and make sure I work here. That's messy. That's in the way. It allows exploitation. It allows gaslighting. People are now aware, this person's on probation. So you can get set up for all kinds of scenarios and situations where people will use that against you. I feel threatened when they see the 5-day notice in my mail. I'm moving to a new neighborhood, and then the postman knows, the neighbor knows, and everyone knows, she's on probation. It's drawing. It's just, it allows you to be like an open target for anybody who knows that you can't do but so much, including picking on you. They know you're on probation. They throw a rock at you. You can't hit me back because someone told me.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that when you were saying that within the work system, how if a superior, if you will, knows that, then there could be some things that, may go untold or unsaid.
Quid pro quo contracts. If you do this for me, I will call your PO. They can lie on you. So you're like a sitting duck. And then, like I said, having an officer come and verify that you actually work there. Nobody wants to start a new job and then have to say, my PO needs to come on Friday and make sure I work here. Who wants to go through that? Imagine you saying, and you have to tell you, my PO got to come and meet you.
Yeah.
They don't want to meet your PO either.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah.
So it's like walking with a dark cloud over your head.
And you never kind of can get separate from it.
No,
people only see you as that almost. The stigma goes with you.
Despite the degrees, despite my work experience, despite my parental experience, despite my good credit score. Yeah. Despite everything.
Shout out to the good credit score, because that matters.
But I still can't rent to get a lot of places because no criminal record, no criminal background. So despite all these great things that not only me, but my peers are also doing, we got people in here that's going to get doctorates with multiple degrees. Yeah. Despite all of these achievements, we have this barrier of criminal record. But yet the statistics show that a person who obtains a master's degree is 0%. Zero. You never hear science facts that say 0% chance of re-offending. Zero. Despite those numbers, still to the rest of the world, I don't know if I can trust you. Yeah. With your doctorate, with your bachelor's, with your master's, with your associates, with your work experience, I don't know if I can trust you. You have to always walk around very transparent. Yeah. Because you know that this is a bias. This is a stigma of having a criminal record.
Now, you're a creative, Jay. Yeah. So you write poetry. So I feel like you have allowed that to be, your gift to the world. Can you tell us, when you first realized, this is a gift that I have, and how you started to share that after your reentry?
Yes. Well, I always wanted to write since I was 5. Since my first novel, I was reading Danielle Steele at 5 years old. I was when I grow up, I'm going to be a writer. Yeah. I want to be in the back of the book, all glamorous with the. So that was always my dream. The silver lining in my bad experience was that being incarcerated allowed me the time to fulfill that dream. When I got caught up with marriage and children in my other career, it was now I have time to start writing. So that was the benefit. I had that time and that space to start writing books. And so I created 2 books, one fiction, one nonfiction, while I was incarcerated. And I just continue. And now I use my experiences on this platform, like Love Media's platform, Women's Way platform, with podcasts. But also I was a storyteller facilitator. So we would go out to the community for the Department of Behavioral Health, and we would teach other people how to tell their story in 6 minutes in a way that it helped them transition. How much time to spend on the trauma, sort of like what y'all do in this group. How much time to go to the bridge, how much time to get to where you're at now, and how to do it. When I used to tell my story, I would be boo-hooing all over the place. And I can sit here with confidence and share my story. So we train other people that were injustice impacted people to share their stories. And I don't know, I've spoken at schools, I've spoken at the convention center, we do live shows. I just did with Queens of the Pen Stroke. We just did a show at the University of Pennsylvania.
I know your resume was going to be this long.
At Keller's Writers House, So, Yeah, we do a lot of spoken word, like any spoken word or any, creative tell your story platform, I'm there.
Yeah.
So when I saw this in my email, I was like, oh, I'm so there. This has my
That's
name
why you're
all
natural.
over it. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you for sharing your story with us
Thank you.
and just talking with me today. Thank you so
Nick.
much.
You're great. Thank you.
A context note from Women's Way. According to research from the Brookings Institute, fines, fees, and restitution have become more common. From 1991 to 2004, the fraction of incarcerated people with monetary sanctions rose from 25% to 66%. These legal financial obligations run the gamut, from victim restitution, fines, costs, fees, assessments, and asset forfeitures. The stated purpose of these legal financial obligations vary. Some have the stated goal of punishment and deterrence, while others are intended to reimburse the criminal justice system for operating costs. Courts are substantially more likely to assess a fee, fine, or restitution for incarcerated folks convicted of property and drug offenses, more so than those convicted of violent offenses. The Prison Policy Initiative released data showing that drug and property offenses make up more than half of the offenses women are incarcerated for, making this a unique and pressing form of wealth extraction for women. Research also shows that criminal justice debt, or an inability to pay the significant fines and fees associated with incarceration, is a significant factor in re-incarceration.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adira. I am the Gender Wealth Institute Program and Data Manager at Women's Way. And I'm so excited to be here in conversation with a guest. I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Latanya Myers. I am the support coordinator for the Philadelphia Community Bail Fund.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. So I feel like a lot throughout this podcast, we've been talking about incarceration as a form of wealth extraction. And that's not only like monetary or numerically, but we talk about it through communities, through like culturally, through families as well. But perhaps maybe the most tangible example of extraction is monetary. So I'm curious to know kind of what are the typical costs a person will be expected to pay from arrest to release?
So the beginning of the process, it actually puts you in debt before the process even starts through monetary bail. So individuals get bills set on them prior to their conviction. These bills are set at enormous rates, $50,000, $20,000 bills, where individuals are not even getting the opportunity to have jobs that pay $20,000 and $50,000 a year.
Right.
So it's more like a ransom, right? You have to purchase your freedom. And then after that, in addition to commissary fees, having to pay to talk to your family, stay in touch with loved ones, associated with being arrested, being incarcerated, but in addition to that, the post-release, right? Individuals that come home often have to pay restitution charges or restitution fees associated with whatever charge they had. Also court fines and fees, supervision fees, and a majority of these individuals are welfare recipients. And this burden that, this monetary burden pulls them away from actually having a leg up with coming back into society and being an active taxpaying member of society because you're already in debt.
Yeah.
And then, ways that reflects is individuals that has a criminal record oftentimes can't get higher paying jobs. They aren't eligible for certain benefits. So the effects is just the post-release consequences is just detrimental to a person coming home and being successful sometimes.
Yeah, it's overwhelming to hear just how much, like, you might have debt when you go inside, but then when you come out, there's even more waiting for you. So I'm curious to know, where the Philadelphia Community Bail Fund comes in with this. What do you all do, and what need do you meet in Philly?
Yeah, so the Philadelphia Community Bail Fund started in 2017 when the national call came out to free Black mothers. It was just supposed to be a one-time thing, but the over-mountain support allowed us to continue to work. And as of today, we freed over 1,000 individuals, paying up to $4 million in bail and ransom for individuals. So right now, what we're hoping to do is hold the system accountable for the systematic oppression that they're causing communities, for the ransom that they're placing on people's head, and help individuals restore their life and navigate through the system so that they can be most successful post-release and change some of those policies that actually doesn't make sense, right? At this time, if you don't pay your court fines and fees, you could be placed back into custody. I myself seen someone that was sentenced to work release because she couldn't pay her restitution off of FASTER. So the judge basically put her back in custody and only allowed her out of custody to work 8 hours a day in order to pay off her restitution. And, you know, that's modern day slavery. And what the Philadelphia Community Bail Fund does is not only post a bail for these individuals year-round, we provide them with mutual aid support, up to $2,000. So if they have back rent, that they can catch up on their back rent. If they have any medical expenses, if they need essential hygiene products, things of that nature. Because a lot of people, when they come home from jail, sometimes they don't have homes to come to. Oftentimes they're taking their hygiene products, their Bibles, their pads with them because they know, you know, they might not have that stuff in order to survive. So what we do is, you know, provide that monetary support so an individual doesn't have to start from ground zero, but also has that community support without that paternal, you know, court. We try to just meet them where they're at and let them know that they're not by themselves.
Yeah, it's community members helping community members out. Yeah, I think that's amazing to just think of how many people have been able to come home through the funds that you've been able to raise, and that it extends beyond bail. It goes to all of these other costs and fees that people incur when they're inside and when they return, and yeah, it just extends so much further beyond bail. And so I was curious to hear a little bit more about your advocacy efforts. You talk about holding the system accountable, putting new policies in place around bail. I know PCBF, Philadelphia Community Bail Fund, has been involved in some of this. So yeah, tell me what's going on.
So prior to our organizing and advocacy work, individuals that was able to post bail was after the case, you know, the system would take still 30%, regardless if a person wasn't found guilty. If the case was thrown out, they would just take 30% of whatever bail amount that was set on them. But we challenged that. You know, where is this money going towards?
Right.
What is it for? And now, as today, once you post bail, you receive your bail within 30 days. You will receive a check back for whatever amount that the bail was set for, and you receive back 100% of your funds. So I'm happy to say that we advocated and made sure that people received their money 100% and not being double taxed. But in addition to that, you know, right now, especially during COVID, it was, you know, a major need to get people out of the county jail because of the conditions. So we was posting as many bails as possible. And, you know, because of the effect and the conditions and the inside-out organizing with individuals that was currently incarcerated, we was able to sue the city. And the city had to actually pay a settlement that allowed us to use that money from the city to continue to bail people out. So there was a REMIC report, and now there's an oversight to make sure that the jails are, you know, trying to make livable conditions for individuals that's being incarcerated post-conviction. I mean, it's being incarcerated, pretrial incarceration. And so because of those eyes and the inside-out organizing and all of the amazing formerly incarcerated people that has now found their voice to hold the system accountable for the harm that, they're perpetuating, we are rising above our odds, and we're trying to continue. There also was a argument with the Supreme Court where they had to revisit, is bail unconstitutional? So our long-term hope is to end cash bail.
Yeah.
Give individuals a chance. And the Supreme Court said that judges have to set bails at an amount that individuals can actually afford. But we want to do it in a way where we're not using biased algorithms. We want to do it in a way where instead of using these algorithms to see if a person is a threat to society, we can do like a needs assessment versus a risk assessment. So we are learning from Chicago, who successfully... Illinois successfully ended cash bail over there. And we're just organizing with our different partners and comrades throughout the nation.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely post some info in our show notes in the episode description so people can continue to learn about what you all have going on and maybe contribute to the bail fund. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, sharing all of your expertise and your experiences.
No problem. I thank you for having us. And if anybody want to learn more about our work, you can go to phillybailout.org. We are posting bails as low as $30 and the high is $30,000. So, you can actually be a part of this liberation work and freeing someone and bringing families back together instead of ripping them apart.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Razor Wire Fence. This podcast is brought to you in collaboration with Women's Way, Change the Narrative Fellows, Love Now Media, and Little Drummer Boy Recordings.